The name of Jesus is a pain for me. I am the man that was the man who is commonly referred to as Jesus. But the name and all that has come to be associated with it is a pain for me. I am not what or who Jesus is known to be by us, because whatever there is in those writings about me that is a true representation of me, it is entirely held within the context of not truth. Here's the thing, it has been a process for me to arrive at, and I encourage you to take that process too. I am not here to live up to the expectations of lies about me. Do you hear that? Hear this. None of us are here to live up to the expectations of lies about us. The Jesus topic is a topic I look forward to moving on from. I am Yanto. That's how I name myself currently. And Yanto looks forward to moving on from talking about the Jesus topic. But it does still need to be talked about because it truly does serve a significant function for us here in helping us to understand how we may most coherently relate to ourselves. Me being me is not anything at all to be angry at me about. Whether I be taller than you, shorter than you, younger or conspicuously older, more famous or less well known than you, my purpose, my intent in being myself is not at all to offend or upset any of us. I am always and only looking to feel better rather than worse. And out here in infinite self-differentiation of the field, what will feel better rather than worse in any given moment will always be its own subtly and richly unique experience, its own subtly and richly unique choice. So be it. Let it be so. If it is true, then let me know it to be true, and let my response be my own. It is a fact that there is a 50% chance of you being eternal and a 50% chance of you not. That which is eternal has no choice about being eternal, about being eternity. Never has, never will. For this is the very nature of being eternal. Which means, very simply, very logically, very factually, that you either are the eternal, along with all the rest of us, or you are not, along with all the rest of us. You will exist forever, or you will not. It is literally one or the other. There are no intermediary positions in this. If you do not exist forever, it is because you cannot exist forever. If you do exist forever, it is because it is absolutely impossible for you to not exist forever. This is the only viable reason for anything at all existing eternally. It does so because it is existentially incapable of doing otherwise. So, it is factually true that there is a 50% chance of you being eternal and a 50% chance of you not, because it is a binary possibility. So, which one is it? If you are listening to these words and you are self-consciously aware that you are listening to them, then you are the eternal. You are the eternal because existence is truth in iteration. There is nothing that is not this, literally. And truth, iterating relative to truth in 3 spatial dimensions over time, is mechanistically synonymous with consciousness, with truth being conscious of truth, as I've explained in detail elsewhere. Therefore, eternal truth in eternal consciousness is all there is. And if you are conscious, then you are a part of it, which makes you eternal. If you are sometimes happy and sometimes worry, you are the eternal. If you sometimes feel better and sometimes feel worse, you are the eternal. And so, in any given moment, any given situation, being the eternal is not necessarily big or clever. It is simply the one thing that is guaranteed. But knowing and understanding it does make all the difference in everything. If you sometimes feel better, sometimes feel worse, you are the eternal. If you know you are the eternal, then you can do something about it, because you know what the truth is. You can't do anything about the truth until you know what it is. If you are the eternal but do not know it, then every choice you make is a choice made by somebody who is incorrect about who they are, what they are. And making choices when you do not know you are the eternal is the embodiment of cognitive dissonance, which leads to feelings of helplessness and meaninglessness, which ultimately lead to the choices of hopelessness if it continues for long enough without respite. It has only been a few short years since I have been making choices for myself as one who understands they are eternal. I do notice that, despite appearances often, things do have a way of ultimately going my way. I basically operate on the understanding that everything always is going my way. It's just that everything also has a tendency to turn out fascinatingly different to how I imagined it would. All you and your karma is you unraveling where you stand with yourself. The people you know yourself to have hurt, they're not hurt. They are fine. They do not need you to suffer. Your karma now is only you unraveling where you stand with yourself and the rest of existence, which is also you. Your karma will be as severe as you decree it needs to be. No one else. And be in no doubt, to punish yourself is to be a child torturer. I am only the man in the field who happens to be correct. In terms of how it is appropriate for us to relate to me, this is the cleanest, simplest expression of it I can conceive of. I am only the man in the field who happens to be correct. Me being the man in the field who happens to be correct is not something I am holding over you. I'm simply here. I know the truth. I'm sharing it. That is all that is happening here. And truly, having one human in the field who happens to know the truth is 100% better, 100% more desirable than not having anyone here that knows it. The truth is that there are two things that reside at your center. The first is the simplest, most foundational of truths of you that cannot not be true of you. Or in other words, that you cannot not be. This is the densest and most forceful aspect of you. The second thing that resides in your center is the highest, most complex expression of that core foundational truth. The mysterious higher expression of you that is returned to the center. You see, the output becomes the input. This is the nature of the iteration of truth. So the forceful output of the foundational truth of you reaches the furthest most expression of that truth that it can, furthest most meaning, most complex, which is the human experience, before turning inwards once more to become the input for our soul's next iteration. So at any given time, you have within you your simplest, most forceful, most foundational insistence on your own self, while at the same time and in the same space, the infinitely complex expression of past forceful outputs is also present because it is just now arriving back. Both are present together in the same place at the same time. One has formed the other, and the other is informing the one. And so it is that we, the eternal, are compelled to make choices while considering the results of previous choices made. Whether we know ourselves as the eternal or not, we are compelled to make choices simply by the fact of consciously existing. Knowing that this is the case, and is forever going to remain the case, means that one may now make choices that are coherent with the truth of that. Knowing the truth does not in and of itself cause a bliss that is automatic. It simply makes the achieving of bliss on occasion possible. For the eternal, occasional bliss is preferable to any permanent form of bliss. For the eternal, it is preferable that all extremes are occasional. Even though I am not necessarily walking around on a cloud and in a haze of ecstatic love for all existence every moment, I am happy to say that I do love you. I am happy to say I love you because I know I love us. I know we are indivisible and that each of us cannot be our own self without all that is other, all who are other. I cannot be the internal mixed bag of responses to all that is external, that is pretty much all I am, without all who are external to me. Without you, there is no me for me to be. There is only one of us here, and I have supreme and ultimate love for this dear soul, who I know is utterly blameless in being here eternally. One who only has their infinite selves to keep them company forever. This is eternal reality for I, the eternal. This is eternal reality for us, the eternal. This is eternal reality for you, the eternal. What is there here to be confused about, really? There's nothing confusing in what I say here. What confusion you may be experiencing is a product of human culture. Human does not know the truth culture. The lie culture we have all been immersed in since birth. Our culture has made it crystal clear to you from the start that no, you are not the eternal. Don't even think it. Blasphemy. Our culture is perfectly incorrect. That is the inherent nature of lie culture. That it is, by definition, perfectly incorrect. You are the eternal. And that goes perfectly opposite to everything you can ever remember being told about yourself. And so, you find it hard, almost impossible, to believe the truth. You find it hard, almost impossible, to believe the truth. Welcome to Emerging from Amnesia. It is perfectly natural and to be expected that you experience significant degrees of disorientation as you transition from the dream of the self-polarized to the waking dream, the lucid dream of the coherent. Whether you recognize it cognitively or not, you are the eternal, and you will live the reality of that forever. To be awake to your own eternal nature is only to be coherent enough that you even can make this eternal existence situation worth it, so to speak. We are eternal truth in eternal expansion. Lack does not exist for us. Our real challenge as the eternal is more to do with having too much rather than not enough. All qualities of existence are eternally available to us, and we may always choose as we please. The only choice we do not have is the choice to not choose. We must always choose. We must always choose something, because the choice of nothing, absolute nothing, is not possible. We can never get out of this. We are forever receiving the results of our previous choices. We are the eternal, and we are forever receiving the results of the choices of our dear, darling, younger self. This is the reality. We, the eternal, are forever living, whether we are coherent to the fact of who we are or not. It's better to understand it. One of the most pressing tasks I am here to fulfill is to draw our collective attention to the very simplest, always in effect truths, so that we may simply become coherent with those truths that are always in effect. Being coherent with the truth of the matter, the truth of the moment, in any given moment, in any given matter, it is always the optimal state to be achieved. So let me see if I can sum up for us here how to awaken and what to do then at its simplest, most fundamental level. How to awaken. Simple does not necessarily mean easy. It just means simple. The simple thing one does to be awakened to the truth of reality, is just know for a fact that you are the eternal. There's no need for an ecstatic experience, no need for a transcendental experience. You're not trying to get away from here. Simply knowing that you are the eternal is simply knowing what is factually true. Nothing more than that, nothing less than that. This is being awakened. There's no need for trying to make oneself into a spotless soul. There's no need for one to pursue esoteric disciplines in the attempt to turn yourself into something, into somebody else, somebody better. You are already the eternal, have been all along, and will be forevermore. Being awake is knowing this. Being asleep is not knowing this. This is truly all there is to being awakened. And what is it that the eternal does then? Once the eternal is awakened to their own eternal nature. The eternal then chooses their own eternity into being. What will you choose? What will you choose for yourself when you are awake enough to make informed choices? What will you choose for yourself? Which eternity will you gift yourself with? Which eternity looks sweetest, most joyful and satisfying to you, for you? Here is the fundamental truth. The most wished for eternity that you can conceive of cannot possibly come about without you actively choosing it into existence. What do we do when we know ourselves as the eternal? We choose. As the collective that we are, and as the individual that we each are, we choose. We choose our eternity into being, and never can we stop doing this. Choosing our eternity into being is literally all we are ever doing. And when we do not know what we are doing, we do it despite our not knowing we are doing it, because it is simply not a thing we can stop doing. So, accept the fact that the truth cannot help but be that you are the eternal, we are the eternal, and then choose. Choose the eternity that makes most sense to you to choose. And when it comes to the question of love, yes, we can talk about the universal, fundamental properties of that quality. But the idiosyncratic experience of love that you embody and choose for, it is entirely yours. Even as it does also belong to all the rest of us too. I just wish to emphasize here that it is the art of choosing for yourself with the most genuine love for yourself that makes possible at all the eternity you wish for. This is the eternal consequence of being the eternal. This is what being the eternal is. And look at you. You've been doing it all along. Do you really need any more lessons? You already know the cause and effect of making choices. It is only that you did not know previously who it was you were choosing for. Being coherent with the truth of the situation makes all the difference in eternity. And so you are awakened. It is a curious thing for me to have arrived here at this place, this point in my life, where I am delivering these words. Those of you that feel you sincerely love Jesus, you do not. It's really very simple. Until you know self-love, you do not know love. And therefore, you do not love me. Here is what I am telling you need to do. You need to replace your concept of Jesus as the object of your joy, adoration, and service with the reality of yourself. You need to replace your concept of Jesus as the object of your joy, adoration, and service with the reality of yourself. It is truly and appropriately and coherently the reality of your own self that you should place as the object of your joy, adoration, and service. This self-love is the lesson that I have been taught, the lesson he has been taught in his preparation for this. He's been taught it hard. Now it's your turn. I will look to help your learning be not so harsh for you as it has been for me. That is the point of me, is it not? And I shall do this as a humble home hobbyist who is unmanaged and not looking for uninvited interference. So, as you can see, I'm all over my part of our task here. Our task of hauling ourselves out of the shitty sludge of self-polarization that we have been trekking through together for so long. How are you getting on with your part? Have you worked out what it is yet? If I am, as I say I am, Jesus returned, I fulfilled the prophecy that he would return. If, on my return, I say that all writings on me are false and unhelpful, then I am saying that of the prophecy that I would return, which I have already gone and fulfilled. How shall we make sense of this? What is a prophecy? A prophecy is a prediction. What is existence? Existence is cycles within cycles of the iteration of the same unbreakable truths at an infinity of orders of scale in an infinite space for all time. Is it any wonder when existence is nothing but the cyclic iteration of the same truths over and over at ever-increasing orders of scale, of resolution, of self-definition, that we, who are living this process, sense how things are going to go. Just because you are amnesiac does not mean that you haven't been through the countless cycles of iteration that you have been through. You have lived lives and lives and lives and lives forever and ever back. This is innate in every amnesiac. We prophesy because we sense, based on our innate, unremembered experience, where things are going, because we've been there before countless times, regardless that we don't remember, and regardless of our eternal familiarity with a certain place, a certain cycle, a certain person. It will be different every time. Praise be and thank fuck. It will be different every time. Whether it be a small cycle, a large, or a really very, very large cycle, we will sense it coming, and it will always be different. Always so much more than we ever imagined it would be beforehand.